Okay, a couple of days ago, I can't remember the day, I put out some questions, and beyond the usual, when is the next chapter out, and there wasn't really a lot, which isn't exactly unheard of. I mean, I kind of, I did really learn early on that sometimes, in fact, a lot of the time, when you try to interact, it never really works out. So I'll deal with the few questions and see how much time there is on this, and if it's not a long time, we can go and look at some comments, I guess, in my comment section on my stories. It's the first one of these. I want to do more because I kind of like this idea of interacting in a space where you can say more things and really kind of expand on what you mean without the limited time you have on Instagram or something. And I don't really like lives. I don't. It's not my thing. So let's answer these few questions and let's okay, so this one is author crush. Who's your favorite author on episode and why? Okay, my favorite probably is someone who doesn't write on episode anymore. She hasn't written on episode for a really long time, actually. But her stories were always kind of really relatable, and I liked the characters, and I always liked that her stories were kind of like well thought out and a bit more mature, I guess. I like that. I don't really get into stories when they're like in high school and stuff. I don't know. But her name was Amelia Rose, and I liked her stories a lot. I liked her writing, and it was kind of sad when she stopped writing, but that's just what happens sometimes. And the next one is, what is your sexuality? Okay, so I'm gay. I identified as bi for a long time. I think maybe I was just still confused. I was still confused, really, in that I guess I didn't really understand myself a lot. I could find a man attractive, but when I thought about being, beyond that, there was really nothing. And I don't know, grew, I guess, the more I realized that, yeah, okay. If you're going to give yourself a label, maybe give it the right one. So, yeah. But for a really long time, I really was uncomfortable with any kind of reference to that. Growing up, it was always a negative. There's always a stereotype, especially for gay women, and then I was always kind of sporty, and I preferred more kind of to be more. I was always the tomboy, I guess, and I like that more muscular physique for myself. So kind of fitting into a stereotype that I didn't want to be, so I didn't want that label because it associated with all the negatives. It was really confusing, and it's no wonder that I was riddled with anxiety and depression. And when I began to become more comfortable, suddenly I became a bit more freer, a bit more confident. I kind of basically let society's perception of people oppress myself. So yeah, I'm gay, and whatever that comes with that. All the endless bad luck with dating and women, you know what it's like. Sucks. Okay, will you continue Forbidden Pleasures? Yeah, I will. The what's always really confusing was I always wrote that with a parody in mind, and that was to be very overly dramatic and over emphasize certain things, because I was essentially making fun of the whole genre of literature, and it's not just in episode, it's everywhere where, you know, men have to be dominant and women must be weak and mild and timid. You know, there's a whole section of literature where for the last like 40 years women have been bought and sold to men who aren't very nice, and the women just fall utterly in love with them, and the man never changes. He always just thinks he's perfect and brilliant, but he says an empty apology and she just falls over herself too. Except I never really understood it. I still don't. So when I wrote it at the time, that genre was very popular in episode 2. I mean, I think it's very popular in most of the apps. I mean, except for Lovestruck, I don't. I read that app a lot, and I don't see that as a thing, which is probably one of the reasons why I enjoy it. It's kind of vast and diverse. A lot of people didn't get the parody, and um, I got a little bit of stick from it, which puzzled me really, because then I would say keep reading, because you know it's not going to stay like this. I can't write weak female characters. I For me, I've always loved strong women, and I was raised by one and in a family of insanely strong women, and I always hope I am one. I'm not quite too sure about that, but I always aspire to be one, and I love to write them. And sometimes your character has to start in a place where she's anything but, and learn that she can be strong, and that became the point of Forbidden Pleasures, in that it started off as this joke, I guess, this parody and this satire where I was making fun, and also making fun of these male characters, because I think it has a lot to do with toxic masculinity, where men has to be a certain way, and which I think it damages men too, not only women. So it became something different as I went along, and suddenly I have these same people who were chastising me for doing what I did to the MC. In my script, she's called Amy. And then in a few episodes' time, come back to me and be really angry with me because of what I'd made, what the MC did to the love interest. So it's this place where I can never win. But the whole point was like taking, ultimately, in the long run, I guess, he was taking these two really ultimately flawed characters for completely different reasons, and making them grow and realize that they can become strong and change on their own. need to be dependent on other people. That was the MC's story. And the love interest's story was supposed to be that letting somebody else's opinions and points of view warp your mind are not really going to do you any good. I guess ultimately was that he was kind of half raised by a grandfather who really hated women and saw them only as objects, and then passed that down to his grandsons. And the whole point was that they would be following in their trope and in that footsteps of their father who they hated, and they needed a mirror to see what they were doing. I can see how that doesn't work for some people. I guess it's ultimately down to your individual perception. Hopefully by the end of it, I have this group of characters that are quite likable and who took a journey to make themselves better, because like none of us are perfect and some of us can be just downright toxic. But are we ever beyond the point where we can't change and atone for our actions? I don't know. I don't get the same reaction on the straight version of Forbidden Pleasures as I do on the LGBTQ version of Forbidden Pleasures. Again, I think that kind of emphasizes the differences that the sexes have, in that a male character can do something and it can be really badly condemned for all the right reasons, but a female character can do it and it's fine. I get a bit confused sometimes, but it is what it is. I mean, as long as you know that it's crummy no matter who's doing it, I guess. Okay, the next question is, will we get to recustomize on Kiss Me? Yeah. I need to sort out customization on that story as a whole. I totally forgot that it's very limited customization, and since I wrote that, actually there's been so much more, so I really need to do that. But there's a point where I kind of need to prioritize, because it takes a long time with the characters and everything you need to put in. There's a point where I need to prioritize writing the chapter and doing the customization. It's really annoying. Even when you take a template and use copy and paste, it's still really time consuming. It's crazy how time consuming it can be. And it's very annoying. Okay, so that is it for the questions. I did tell you there wasn't many. I tried to answer really long things, and this is the first one of many, I hope. So hopefully one I put out, and and I'll get more of a response next time, and then the next time that I do it there'll be even more. I don't know, maybe not, maybe this is a really stupid idea, who knows, least of all me. Okay, so like I say, things are really kind of weird right now. I'm not gonna give any advice, because I don't think I'm in a place to do that, because I don't really know anything. All I know is right now my anxiety is not acting up, and it's not making me think I'm going to die, which is crazy, because usually I'm the one panicking, not being calm. So things are kind of crazy right now, and I kind of want to just make a space where escapism is possible. So, like, my Patreon is, I'm putting more content on there. I'm still writing the short story because it's not something that's going to be done in like a day. And that's kind of more of a something I've always wanted to do. Since I was a little kid and I was watching a TV crime show called Trial and Retribution, written by a English crime writer called Lynda La Plante, and I kind of just fell in love with Victoria Smurfit and her badass cop role. I just loved her so much, and from that moment, I just always wanted to make a series of stories about a badass female detective. And at that time as well, there was a lot of female lead detectives. There was Helen Mirren in I always get these two mixed up. Prime Suspect, and there was another one, Silent Witness, which is kind of more of a pathologist, I guess, but I forget the name of the actress. But later on, Emilia Fox took over. So, but there was just a lot of those. Well, I guess maybe not a lot when you really think about how many male lead detectives there are. So, but that was just always something that I aspired to do, and recently I just decided to say screw it, let's do it, let's have some fun, and hopefully some stuff can work out. So I'm going to go and edit this video, and the next time I do one, which will probably be maybe 2 weeks time, I don't know, it'll probably depend more on how much time I have. I'm right now writing the last chapter of Lost to Love, which is kind of sad for me to say goodbye to characters that I've come to love, and also a relief that I can move on to other stories. And I've recently decided to put a little secret up on Limelight, and also I will be adding more chapters. I remember talking about this to someone, about the potential of more, because there's so much more to write. And I guess that was always the intention. That conversation just made me just think, and it just took me like a year and a half to do it. I also have to go and do something, take some video screenshots of my Redbubble store, because I now have a Redbubble store, which you can check out. I don't know if you want some prints. I kind of decided to put my art up there. I did an artwork recently that kind of really exploded on Twitter, which it's kind of hard to get something to explode on Twitter, really. But it did, which really surprised me, and a lot of people were like, why don't you sell your art? And I do commissions. I have a commission I'm doing right now. If you see my stories, you see my dancing art. So I do commissions, but a lot of people were like, why don't you sell your art? And I've tried, but the stores I tried weren't really very good. I couldn't really get on with them. But Redbubble seems okay in setting stuff out. So it seems better. Shirts look better and things like that. And there's more variety, I guess. But it's kind of weird to have a Lena Luthor bed cover, duvet cover. wrap yourself up in Katie McGraw, I guess. Some people like that. Don't forget you can join my Patreons for extra content. We do a lot of Lexa and Melissa things. The kind of cool thing about Patreon is I can do a bit more kind of more adult stuff. Episodes kind of very restrictive for what you can write, especially now. So I can kind of write smut if I want to. So I can write smut if I want to, which I do. You can also suggest one shots and stuff, and get behind the scenes content. And just go look at my page. It's all there. There's so much I've forgotten right now, but whatever it is, we do it. And last year I held an art contest, which a patron got, and that is up on my Instagram if you want to see that. So we do art contests too. We do whatever. So I'm gonna end this now and say goodbye, and hope you enjoyed the video.